Well, shalom, shalom. Isn't it great to be with you? And you may be hearing the sounds of a pond and a flowing stream in the background. Isn't it time to relax as the world is going to pieces? This is Barry Segal for VFI News. So let's begin our news today because Ibrahim Raisi, the Iranian president, he's warning that Israel will be targeted by his country's armed forces if it makes the tiniest move against Iran. Raisi addressed Israel directly during a speech at their annual parade of Iran's armed forces. Quote, he said, "If you make the tiniest move against the nation of Iran, the center of the Zionist regime will be the target of our armed forces," referring to Tel Aviv. So everybody in Tel Aviv, you better be praying in any event. And we need to ask God to protect Israel from these attacks of violence. And we need to do something about this Iranian nuclear plan, because Iran confirms moving centrifuge facility allegedly hit by Israel to an underground site. Why? Because they want to bring it underground. In fact, everything they're doing is secretive and underground, except for what we know that they're doing. Iran's centrifuge facility in Karaj found itself targeted in what Iran described as a sabotage attack in June. Natanz itself has twice been targeted in these attacks amid uncertainty over the nuclear deal and blames Israel as usual. But I want Iran to know, not just Israel is concerned about you, the United States, Europe, the United Nations, and most of the rest of the world. So you never know who's behind these things. On Thursday, the Vienna-based International Atomic Energy Agency said it installed cameras and removed seals from machines at the new workshop in the Natanz 2 days earlier. And I don't mean the animal in the sea called the seal. I mean seals. Talks between Iran and world powers in Vienna to revive the 2015 nuclear deal have stalled. And that's where they belong, stalled. Now, locally on the home front, Mansour Abbas of the Ra'am party, he's part of the coalition, the Arab coalition, for the first time ever in the Israeli government, is demanding that no Jewish prayer on the Temple Mount, or he will leave the coalition. Well, I've got news for you, Mansour Abbas, with all due respect to you as a member of the Knesset. Jewish history and Jewish archaeology confirms that Jews were once there praying at the first and second temples and have always been there. And there is no way that I believe you can stop Jewish prayer on the Temple Mount. It will happen, past, present, and future. So the Ram Party has submitted its conditions for remaining part of the coalition to Prime Minister Naftali Bennett, maintaining the status quo at the Temple Mount, under which Jews are banned from any form of prayer at their holiest site. I'm not so sure it's exactly that way. In addition, the party demands an agreed outline for the implementation of the economic 5-year plan within a year, accelerating the recognition and regulation of villages in the Negev, that's where most of the Bedouin Arab population lives, and expanding the program to eradicate crime and violence in the Arab sector. Yes, that's where we have the most crime and violence, is in their sector, but it's out of control. So Lord, either way, we ask you to advance peace in Israel. God help us all. Now, on another note, guess who's getting involved with the Palestinian Authority, with Mahmoud Abbas? Putin. Yes, Vladimir Putin, the barbaric Putin, who's attacking relentlessly Ukrainian citizens, and especially innocent men, women, and children who are being bombed out of their wits. Russian President Vladimir Putin held a phone call with Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas to discuss tensions in Jerusalem and negotiations between Russia and Ukraine. According to the report, Putin updated Abbas on Russia's special military operation to defend the Donbass region in eastern Ukraine. With the war in Ukraine driving up food prices globally, Putin also assured Abbas during the phone call that Moscow will provide the Palestinians with Russian wheat, materials, and crops. That is, if it hasn't been polluted by the red dust they kicked up coming back from Chernobyl, the soldiers of the Russian army. The Palestinian official news agency WAFA said that Putin, quote, stressed Russia's firm position in support of the rights of the Palestinian people and that Russia will continue to accord its political support to the Palestinian cause in all international forums and what is happening in Jerusalem and the Al-Aqsa Mosque. Well, the bottom line is, people, you have to realize Russia, way back decades ago, was supporting the PLO, was supporting Yasser Arafat, was a Marxist terrorist group that targeted innocent Israeli athletes at the Munich Olympics in 1972, and also was behind many of the conspiracies against Israel across Europe. Yes, this is the same Russia coming back, and history repeats itself. Well, on a happier note, as we conclude with Passover this weekend, I just want to again encourage you to wish and pray for one another during this wonderful Passover time, and go to our link that's here so that you can see a message from Batya and myself. Now, Naftali Bennett, our Prime Minister presently, said, "Don't join the lies," as Jordanian Prime Minister praises the Palestinian rioters. You may have been hearing that hundreds of Palestinian youth were rioting on the Temple Mount and also targeting Israeli public buses near the Lion's Gate, throwing rocks at them, breaking windows, and shattering whatever piece they could in the city during this time of Ramadan, Resurrection Sunday, and Passover. Yes, and it's being instigated and supported by such nations like Iran and such terror groups like Hamas, ISIS, and Islamic Jihad. Get the point? The news isn't telling you all the truth. I'm telling you what I can from the truth today on VFI News. Israel is doing everything, Naftali Bennett said, so that everyone can always celebrate their holidays safely. Jews, Muslims, and Christians. Hats off to our Prime Minister. We expect everyone not to join the lies and certainly not to encourage violence against Jews. Bennett also spoke out against those who blame Israel for the violence against us, those who encourage throwing rocks and violence against the citizens of the State of Israel. This is unacceptable, he said. I agree. That is a prize for the insiders, foremost of which is Hamas, which is trying to spark violence in Jerusalem, Bennett said. I rest my case. Now, on the brighter side, guess what's happening? Star Wars in Israel. Can you believe it? You're not going to believe this. Really, I never thought we would see this in our day and age. Israeli laser-based air defense shoots down drones. Zap. I'd like to do that with flies if I could, even mosquitoes. But no, these Israeli-based air defense systems are incredible. I haven't seen it working, but I know it's exciting. The Defense Ministry revealed Thursday that a laser air defense system is developed and successfully shooting down drones, rockets, mortars, anti-tank missiles in the first series of its tests last month. And it is quoted by saying, "The use of a laser is a game changer and the technology is simple to operate and provides to be economically viable." I heard that our system, the Iron Dome system, when we shoot a rocket up to intercept an incoming rocket, it costs us something like at least $50,000 a piece, even more. That's crazy. Who can afford such things? Well, Jeremiah chapter 51 verse 20 says, "You are my hammer and weapon of war. With you I break nations in pieces, and with you I destroy kingdoms." Zap. That's it. It's incredible. Wow, I can't wait to see it in operation. Finally, the sad news is Israeli consumer goods rose by 0.6% in March, and housing costs continue to soar. The cost of consumer goods are going up, just like everywhere else. And apartment prices also rose during the first couple months of 2022. Last but not least, as I put my notes down and I raise this plate with chocolate coconut macaroons. Let me tell you what happened. There was a priestly blessing that took place this week at the Western Wall, the Kotel, the Wailing Wall, where thousands of Kohanim, like the name Cohen, came up to the Western Wall for the priestly blessing that goes on twice a year during Passover and Sukkot. It went on without incident. Of course, 2,500 police officers were around to keep the peace. And all I can say as we conclude Passover is, have a macaroon on me. One for me, one for you.